Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. We are here to finish off our discography journey with the highly expected, at least by me, ranking and reviewing artist. In this case, ranking and reviewing Mariah Carey. It's just the same as I did with Kylie Minogue. I'm gonna take the albums, I'm gonna discuss a bit about my opinions towards them, and I'm gonna rank them in a tier maker that I made here. Now, as you can see, I hope you can, that the tier maker, so we have absolute masterpiece, great ones, good ones, okay ones, meh, and no. Just that, no. It's the same categories as I used for Kylie Minogue's video, which I think it's fair because it does reflect how I feel about the albums. I didn't make this tier, but I did create the tiers and rename them the way I wanted to. But it's a made template. I'm gonna link it in the description if you want to play it as well, or if you just want to go in the comments and comment about my opinion on the albums. It's up to you, but let's go. So the first album here is actually, it's not in any order as far as I can tell. It's kind of chronological, but only from 2005 onwards. Anyways, I'm going to order that's here. So the first album that's here is Emancipation of Mimi. Well, you know my thoughts. It currently sits as my #1 most watched video in the channel, and I genuinely did not believe this was gonna happen. I did not think it was gonna happen. I did not think the reaction to my reaction would be this overwhelmingly positive, but it was. So other than that, it is an absolute masterpiece. This album has 2 skips. Say Something, and I'm alone in that because everybody loves Say Something, I don't. Which is something that happens very often throughout her discography, I must say. And For the Record, which at least I am not the only one who dislikes it. I think someone said in the comments it's the worst song she has ever done. I don't know about that. There's worse, definitely, in my opinion, and we're gonna talk a bit about them. But yeah, it's definitely in the bottom. But other than these 2 tracks, the entire album is godly. It opens with a perfect trio. I would even say a perfect... No, it wasn't a perfect 4 because track number 4 said something. But it does open with a perfect trio. There are three tracks here who... Well, 4... But 1 is hard to compare because it's my favorite track in her entire discography. But there are 3 tracks here who weren't singles, should have been if you ask me, and who absolutely destroyed me from my first listen. Mine Again, Circles, I Wish You Knew. Honestly, I think these tracks are the best vocal performances of her career, alongside, of course, Fly Like a Bird, which was my #1 track of 2022, the track I heard the most in 2022, my favorite track in Emancipation, my favorite track in Mariah's discography, and one of my favorite songs ever to have ever come out. It's to this day I have difficulties trying to explain exactly what I feel about the song, so I'll just say it's powerful because it's 100% that. At least it's that, but it's much more than that. I just don't have I don't think there's a language in which there's enough words to describe what the song actually is. So I'll just stick to powerful because yeah, it's for sure is powerful. Next album, E=MC². Definitely not a masterpiece. There are so many flaws in this album, but I would put it in great ones. Mostly because I really like what she did with a couple of tracks, more specifically Migrate and I'm That Chick. She went in a little more of a pop direction here, which is something she every now and then does. We're gonna talk a bit about Glitter and I'm gonna bring it up. And these two tracks especially, they really stuck out for me. I also really like I Stay in Love, which is quite reminiscent of ballads by Chris Brown, Rihanna, Neo, who really dominated the year. This album was from 2008. I specifically was thinking on Hate That I Love You, which is Rihanna featuring Neo. That's from 2007, was released as a single in 2008. And I Stay in Love definitely emulates that. Touch My Body has a nice touch, I should say, of Emancipation of Mimi as far as it goes with production. It's definitely not as vocally challenging an album as Emancipation is. Not that I think it should be, I don't think it's necessary. I love I'm That Chick, I love Migrate, and they are fairly easy tracks to sing. Nothing that Mariah Carey sings truly is easy, you know, but if you put into comparison with, say, Fly Like a Bird, some tracks definitely sound easy to sing. Migrate, and especially I'm That Chick, is an example of that. I personally am a huge fan of what she did with autotune in this album, in this example. Critics hated the fact she used autotune in Migrate. I think it's what makes the track stand out in her discography and in the album. There's also Wish You Well, which is a moment of religious relaxation, I should say, and, you know, kind of a peaceful track. Her voice, piano, a choir, she goes off, as she usually does when she's involved with religion. So yes, there's definitely, you know, this concise and very strong mass inside the album, but then you take these off and you're left with some tracks that don't really click with me. So yes, also I'll Be Loving You a Long Time is a great track. I do think she chose the right singles, but then there's tracks like For the Record and Love Story, which, what do I have to do with them, right? Next album, Memoirs of an Imperfect Angel. I'm struggling. I'm gonna put it here, and depending on what I think an okay album is based on the rest of the discography, I might move it up. But Memoirs, it's definitely an interesting case because there are tracks here which I absolutely love. Upon My Face, I Wanna Know What Love Is. It's a rap, which is now becoming sort of a hit in TikTok. I saw her reels on Instagram with actually bringing a rap genius. This woman is a genius. Common phrase throughout the discography journey, as you guys know. And Obsessed, I Wanna Know What Love Is. It's a rap, and Upon My Face. And Angels, I would say as well. Angels Cry, what was the name of that one? I don't remember actually. Anyways, if I don't remember, then it didn't stick out to me as much as I thought it did. But these four tracks, they are very good. However, this album has a lot more than just these four tracks. And until like half the album, when It's a Rap came up, I was like, okay, what's happening here? What do you have for me, you know? It just doesn't shine, you know? It just doesn't. I'm standing here, I'm sitting here thinking about this album, and other than these four tracks, I can't remember the title of another track. That's an issue personally, because the entire album doesn't glow as its predecessors did. And, well, I can't say anything about its successor because its successor also glows as well. So, yeah, Memoirs of an Imperfect Angel is a good album for people who really, really like R&B. But as I have discovered throughout the discography, maybe I don't like as much R&B as I thought I did. Or if I do, I like an R&B that isn't current, because whenever she hops into the current manifestations of R&B music, I tend to dislike that. I like my R&B a little more classic, a little more along the lines of what she did in Emancipation of Mimi, NEM equals MC square, or you know, a complete renovation of the genre as electro R&B, which is what she did in Migrate and Sprung, and Obsessed as well. So yes, that's why I think I really like It's a Rap and Up on My Face. Obsessed because of its electro R&B. I Wanna Know What Love Is because it's a ballad and she sounds great, and it's a cover of a popular song which I really liked, and Mariah covering tracks is one of my favorite things ever. I think she should have an album just with covers. So yes, that's how I feel about Memoirs. Moving on to Merry Christmas to You. I have a thing with Christmas albums because during Christmas they're my favorite albums, but outside of Christmas they're just not. So I don't know. In my Kyla video I made a category called Christmas, but I don't want to do that here. So I'm gonna take a neutral point of view, despite the fact it isn't Christmas. I'm gonna treat this album as an album, not as a Christmas album. So I'm gonna put it here in great ones. Depending on what else comes up in great ones, I might put it down to good ones. Merry Christmas to You has some of the best vocals of her career, definitely her best vocals in the 2010s era. Some of you guys told me that she was pregnant, and because of that she couldn't overuse her voice because, well, she was pregnant. So there was a lot of vocal rest, and that really helped. And honestly, yeah, it fucking really helped, because as I said throughout the video, there were moments here in which I couldn't dissociate the voice from a period of time in which it wasn't being sung. More than once I thought, my god, she sounds just as good as she did in Music Box. And I definitely think, I joked about it in the comments, she should get pregnant more often, because it really helped her vocals. Also, there are so many cute moments in this album, such as the feature with her mother, Patricia, and some not so cute moments, such as her rendition of Here Comes Santa Claus, Here Comes Santa Claus, Ride Down Santa Claus Lane, which she tried to do something with it, and personally she ruined a perfectly good track. So yes, this is definitely some reasons why I think that I might put it down to good ones, but so far I'm comfortable in having it at great ones, and I'm comfortable in having it below E equals MC squared. Next album, Mia and Mariah, The Elusive Chanteuse. Now, much like Memoirs of an Imperfect Angel, there's a good few tracks in this one. More specifically, The Art of Letting Go, You Don't Know What to Do. I swear there's more, I just can't remember them. Cry. And the one with Stevie Wonder playing the harmonica. Can't remember its name. See, once again, if I can't remember, has it really stuck out to me? I think the moment really did, because I do remember what it's about. But the track in itself, maybe it didn't stick out to me as much as I thought it did. Oh well, anyways, it has that consistent mass. It's definitely very powerful vocally. You can hear everything from her lowest lows to her highest highs. Literally, I believe some of you said this is the album where you can really hear her entire range. It's the album where she showcases the biggest range throughout all the albums. And this is a huge example of the point I tried to make in my caution video, is that as much as I like her vocals, just her vocals is not enough for me to like a song. It's not enough for me to like an entire album, in fact. This album doesn't sound very cohesive. You can definitely hear that there's somewhat of a line going through it, in which some type of element can show up. It's definitely an R&B album, but it's not a cohesive R&B album like Emancipation, E = MC, or even Memoirs is. It's just a mess of an R&B album. You have, for instance, disco, which is a subgenre of soul, but you wouldn't put disco next to a track like Cry because it doesn't make any sense, even though they belong to the same genre. It's like, I don't know, if Taylor Swift suddenly put an EDM track inside Folklore. Just because the entire album follows an indie pop, which is a subgenre of pop, it doesn't mean that any type of pop track is gonna suit. It's definitely a cohesiveness issue for me and Mia and Mariah. And the way tracks are worked, the way tracks are sung, the way tracks are placed inside the album, and even some of the tracks' length. There are very many examples here that, well, this entire album is long. The album is over 1 hour. It has, I think, 16 or 17 tracks. It's an album that I heard once, probably won't hear again. Next one. I'm not gonna linger too much here because I've given my reasons. This album has sparked its fair amount of contradiction and issues in this channel. It sits as my video with the most amount of dislikes. Some of you have called me the worst things I've ever been called in this channel because of this album, how I felt about it, but I'm gonna stick to my point. I'm gonna stick to my truth. I don't like this album. I think this album is subpar compared to what Mariah can, has, and often does do. It sounds like something that I could hear in a SZA album, in a Rihanna album, in maybe a Cardi B album. It doesn't have anything new to it. It doesn't add much to her discography personally. The critics ate it up because it's cohesive as fuck. Yes, I will give it that. This album is one of the, if not the, most cohesive of her career. Definitely an improvement over Mia and Mariah when it comes to cohesiveness. And I would say an improvement over E = MC², and an improvement over Memoirs of an Imperfect Angel as well. When it comes to cohesiveness, it's her most cohesive album since Emancipation, if not of her entire career, or at least since the 90s, you know. So I do give a lot of credit to this album because of its cohesiveness. But elsewhere, every track sounds the same. 8th Grade, The Distance, Runway. I cannot sing you these tracks because I don't remember them. Caution as well. I think all these tracks sound the same production wise. That's because she took an approach to R&B music that I personally dislike, which is trap. It's what was popular at the time. I don't blame her for doing that. I just think she could have, and I know she could have because she did so in Stay Long Love You, worked the genre a bit so it would sound like something new, and again, not like something I would hear in a Cardi B album, in a SZA album, in a Rihanna album, or any of these artists who were really popular at that moment. Ella Mai as well, another great example actually, an Ella Mai album. It definitely sits as my least favorite album in this entire discography, and I am definitely alone when it comes to that opinion because both critic and public alike seem to consider this a great album. And yeah, I mean, what can I say? Next album, Rarities, and I'm gonna do something crazy, but I'm gonna explain why. Every artist who claims they love their fans should do what Mariah Carey did with Rarities. She knows her fans love her, and she gave them something they didn't even know they needed. But of course they need it, because they are their fans. She took songs from albums she didn't put out earlier, put them all inside an album, and dropped it under the title Rarities. Because they are rare, they are gems, they're little jewels, they're pearls, they shine, they are good. I like every single track in this album. That's more than I can say about any album in the entire discography, even Mr. Emancipation of Mimi here. It's hard to say, oh my god, it's my favorite album in the entire discography, but it's definitely an album that has a concept that's just so nice, you know. It's really nice, it's nice, it's a kind thing to do, I would say. It's so wholesome that she chose to do that for her fans. I love her so much for doing that, that I think it's the best album of her career because of what it achieved, of what it meant to do, of how much heart and soul she put into this. She didn't have to do that. No one would hold it against that she never released an album full with tracks that we didn't get to hear back then. No one would, because no artist does that. Mariah just did. I love her so much for it. That's why I think it's my favorite album in her discography. Even though it has, as an album, as a collection of tracks, no cohesiveness whatsoever, no concept whatsoever, it's still, as an album, as a recording project, the best of her career. Now, what does this mean? It means that I'm gonna put it here as sort of an honorable number one, an honorary number one. Because, as I said, it's hard to compare with other actual albums that were recorded during a certain time and released under a concept, under a banner, under the same label, la 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 la. So I'm gonna put it here, and it's gonna stay here. But my actual number one Mariah Carey album is gonna be reviewed as the video goes, and it's not Rarities as an album. It's Rarities as a concept, as a gesture, as a gift to her fans, but not as an actual studio 100% original material kind of album. Now moving on to the very beginning of her discography, journey north channel of her career, Mariah Carey. It's coming ahead. Yes, it's coming ahead of E = MC squared. What I really like about this album is how well she chose the singles. There isn't a track here that I think, this should have been a single, because I do think every track that was a single was very well chosen. Vision of Love, Don't Wanna Cry, Love Takes Time, and Someday. I do love the album version of Someday. I know she doesn't, but I still think it's the better version of this track. It's a great opening for her career. It's definitely a strong beginning, and it's definitely an album that I can come back to anytime and wouldn't feel bored of listening to this track, to the tracks. There are tracks that weren't singles that I really like, such as I Won't Be a Prisoner of Your Love and You Need Me. There are tracks that don't really do that for me, such as, and I forgot its name again, the one about saving the world. There's got to be a way. Yes, that's it. But I would say it definitely sounds like something that is not personal. And I know that was true. I later found out that it was true. It definitely doesn't sound like something that she did because she wanted to. It sounded like something that she did because the label thought would suit her. They weren't wrong, but you can definitely hear that and see that and feel that. So yes, it's a great album. That's why it sits currently as my number one great album. But yeah, it has its issues, just as any album of hers do. Next album, My Sweetheart, Emotions. I didn't know I was gonna love Emotions as much as I ended up loving it after the video was over. This album has so many great tracks that weren't single, and it's a crime. You're So Cold, which is one of the most surprising tracks of her career. If It's Over, an amazing ballad. And You Don't Remember, an amazing ballad. The Wind, which tore my heart out. One I already knew and loved, To Be Around You. And tracks as well as any other album of her career that didn't really do that for me, so just Can't Let Go and Till the End of Time. But these are two examples of tracks that are overshadowed because what comes between them, both after and before, is just magnanimous. This album is truly outstanding. It's a style I wish she would have gone forward with, but sadly it suffered from underperformance compared to her debut studio album. So they switched the style to the style of this little guy here, Music Box, which, I mean, it's quite cohesive, an album. It's quite commercial as well. Tracks like Hero and Without You dominated the music markets. The style of tracks like Hero and Without You dominated the market of the 90s, especially the early 90s, you know, alongside tracks by Celine Dion, for instance. So it's definitely understandable why the label chose her to do that. Some of you said that it's not one of her favorite albums. It's not one of my favorite albums of hers either. There are tracks here which I really love. Dream Lover is my favorite track in this album, one of the best of her career. I love it. It's so ethereal and nice and stuff. But it also sounds out of place because it's the only track who does that in this album. It sounds more like something that could be in Daydream than Music Box, because Music Box is much more of a strong ballad album with tracks like Hero, Without You, Anytime You Need a Friend being vocal powerhouses that really just want to make you cry. So yes, this album does pull strings of one's heart, but sound-wise it's not my favorite album of her career because it's in the middle of an absolute masterpiece and another absolute masterpiece, Merry Christmas. In my Merry Christmas to You album, I was wondering if I really liked Merry Christmas to You or Merry Christmas better, and I had to re-listen to Merry Christmas 1, and yeah, it's Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas is the blueprint of, or should be the blueprint of, any Christmas album. As I said, it covers all bases of Christmas. We have religious track, love tracks, family tracks, kids tracks, gifts tracks. It covers every base. Not that Merry Christmas to You doesn't, it does. But Merry Christmas has that extra 90s touch to it. It has that extra feel. It has tracks like Silent Night, my favorite rendition of Silent Night. It has my favorite rendition of Oh Holy Night. It has All I Want for Christmas Is You. It has my favorite rendition of Santa Claus Is Coming to Town. It has Miss You Most at Christmas Time. It has Joy to the World. It has Hark the Herald Angels Sing. It has God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. It has Gloria. It's a magnanimous. It has Jesus What a Wonderful Child. That track is so good. It's a magnanimous album. It's a masterpiece. And as a Christmas album, it's my favorite Christmas album of all time. And as an album in her discography, it's definitely a masterpiece. Next one. Dun, dun, dun. My favorite album of her discography is Daydream. This may surprise you because when I first heard Daydream, I didn't like it all that much. I liked it better than Music Box, but not over Emotion, not at all. But then I read the comments and I found out this album has a concept. Up until fantasy dub mix, it's a fantasy, which is what she said in the first track. Then she wakes up and we have Looking In. And after I read that, I was like, no, I have to listen to this album again. And every single track hits inside the context, inside the concept of the album. Every track but Long Ago, but every family has its black sheep, doesn't it? And it's great. I love how ethereal this album sounds, how heavenly, how girly she sounds even. Tracks like Underneath the Stars, Forever, Fantasy, they are meant to take you somewhere else, melt away. They are meant to melt you away. They are meant to take you away. They're hypnotizing. Then you also have tracks like One Sweet Day, which is so powerful and so meaningful, and tracks like Always Be My Baby, which is just so cute. That this entire album, after I first heard it, and especially I heard it after reading that comment, it just fit, you know, it just clicked with me, and it fit inside of me, and it's my favorite album of hers now. I can listen to this album every day without getting bored of it. It's especially great for writing, let me tell you that. If you're a writer, make yourself a favor, write something while listening to Daydream. I swear your inspiration is gonna flow stronger than the Mississippi, alright? It's a great, great, great album. It's a masterpiece. It's my favorite album of her discography and one of the best albums that have come out in the 90s. Next album, Butterfly. Another one that when I heard in the channel I didn't quite like, but then grew on me. Because the tracks I already liked, I just wound up liking them more. And one track that I didn't like, which is Breakdown, I now really, really like. And it's a great track. And you guys were right. It is a great track. And it is a standard of hip-hop/rap collaborations that would come, because you definitely see that it's a blueprint for how rap and pop artists would collaborate in the future. It's a great album. It's an album that's healing. I would say I was going through some moments of my life when I rediscovered this album, not in the channel, like a month after my reaction, and it healed me, and because of it, it grew a lot in me. I got to cry to Outside, for instance, which is something that doesn't happen very often. I never cried in the channel, for instance. Not that I can think of. Maybe I can. I don't know. And it's very easy to see why it's her favorite album of hers, because it's very well thought out, very well polished, and even the tracks I didn't like, I can acknowledge that they're good. I just don't think they're for me. Next album, My Little Sweetheart, Rainbow. I don't know though. I like Rainbow better than Merry Christmas, but I don't know if I don't consider Rainbow a masterpiece. It just has a lot of tracks that I really like, so I'm gonna have to put it here in great ones, because there are tracks here that I just can't stand, such as her featuring with Usher and Ex-Girlfriend. I can't stand these tracks. They are so bad, unfortunately. But then again, you have Heartbreaker, and you have Thank God I Found You, and you have Against All Odds, and you have Can't Take That Away, and you have Cry Baby, which is my favorite track in this album. And one of the few examples of a track that, as a featuring, works really well, to the point where I think maybe if it wasn't a featuring I wouldn't like it so much, because her and Snoop Dogg have great chemistry in this track. When they harmonize, it's perfect. It's one of my favorite tracks of her discography. My favorite track in Rainbow, and one of the reasons why Rainbow is so high up in my list. So much so that no. It's not a masterpiece. It's not a masterpiece. It's just really, really good. Next one we have is Glitter, which is gonna come here. Glitter is a soundtrack album, and it definitely shows in tracks like Last Night a DJ Saved My Life, which is nearly 7 minutes long, and Don't Stop Funky for Jamaica, which is pretty much them featuring Mariah than it is Mariah featuring them. She sings so little in the track. Also tracks like Reflection, which are created while in character, so it's kind of like rarities. It's hard to place it inside her discography because it's made for a very specific purpose, and this purpose is not to create a studio album. It's to emulate a period of time and the life of a character that she was portraying in the film. Luckily for me, this period of time was the 80s, one of my favorite decades in music, and that means we got to hear tracks. That means we got to hear Poppy Raya, okay? That means we got to hear Poppy Raya and tracks like If We, and especially I Didn't Mean to Turn You On. I really am curious. I wonder if Glitter had not flopped, would she have carried on in pop? Would she have continued making pop music? Because she sounded like she was having fun. She definitely sounded like she was having fun in this album. You can hear it in her voice. She was giving it her all for this album, for this project, for Glitter. I wonder if the soundtrack, the film is something else, but if the soundtrack had not flopped, would she have continued in this direction? Because this bad guy here, Charm Bracelet, oops, I took it, now I can't put it back. It's not gonna stay here, okay? I'm just illustrating my point. This guy here, Charm Bracelet, it's a comeback to R&B because she was trying to rebuild her image. But if her pop image hadn't flopped, would she still have come back to R&B because Glitter was just a phase for an album, or would she have continued making pop music? I very much wondered that, because I think Poppy Raya is a great variation of Mariah Carey, and definitely something that I wish we got to hear more often and more throughout her discography, because as I said, she definitely sounds like she's having fun while she's making pop music. Not that I don't think she does when she makes R&B, I absolutely think she does. That's why all these albums are standing in great and absolute masterpiece. But there is something else when she does pop, and that's why Glitter sits as my great ones. And as for this bad guy, which I'm holding because I can't put it back, Charm Bracelet, or I don't know if I like it better than Music Box. I think I do. But this album, it's a similar case to Memoirs. It has so many tracks that I just don't care for because of the direction she took. But there are tracks that I really love. Yours, Through the Rain, I Only Wanted, and Bring It On a Heartbreak, or Bring It On a Heartbreak. These are the tracks that I really, really like. And there are a couple more, I just can't remember their name for some reason. Oh, Clown, the first diss track to Eminem. But other than that, I just don't really care for the other tracks in this album. I still remember Boy, for instance. Boy, the boy. Ugh. That's why I don't dare put it anywhere near Merry Christmas to You. So I'm gonna put it here. And yes, it's a very important album because it's the album she used to slowly rebuild her image post glitter issues. That's why I think she turned back to R&B, which is the genre she got popular with during the 90s, and stopped doing the whole crazy innovations that she had started briefly with Rainbow and would continue on with Glitter, because obviously that didn't work with the public. I personally think that didn't work because the film flopped. A soundtrack is usually as famous as its film is. I can think, for instance, Vegas, Bohemian Rhapsody. Well, Bohemian Rhapsody, different example, but Vegas, which is from Elvis, film was popular. Titanic, Evita, Star is Born, you know. Since the film wasn't popular, it's likely that the soundtrack wasn't as well. So that's what I think happened. That's why I think Glitter flopped, not because the album is bad, because it isn't, but because the film which the album was about allegedly is bad. I don't know, I haven't watched it, but the critics hated it, so they're the ones who rule the world, right? And yes, that's why I think she took that direction with Charm Bracelet. Apparently it worked because most of her fans love it. Then again, most of her fans love Caution. I don't, but I don't dislike Charm Bracelet at all. That's why it's sitting here comfortably, I would say, ahead of these three, and yeah, ahead of Music Box. I don't know, now that I'm looking at this list, I'm gonna make some adjustments and I'm gonna be back with a little justification for them. Okay, I made some changes. As you can see, I actually took E equals MC squared that was here and placed it down here. The reason why I did that is because even though, as I said, there's this mass, there's this ball of tracks that I really like inside the album, the other tracks, it's a similar case to Charm Bracelet. The reason why it's ahead of Charm Bracelet is because of the tracks I like, I really like. The same doesn't quite happen in Charm Bracelet. I like them a lot, but not as much as I do the tracks I like in E equals MC squared. Then again, I don't think it's fair to put E equals MC squared above Merry Christmas to You, because Merry Christmas as an entire album, Merry Christmas to You that is, as an entire album, is better than E equals MC squared. So I have to do this little change. I don't think I changed anything else. I don't remember if I had put Glitter here. No, right? It was next to Rainbow. Yes, I considered doing this, but then I just remember Caution and no. So, yes. This is my list, my tier. So we have absolute masterpiece, great ones, good ones, okay ones, meh, and no, which is our cute little Caution in the bottom with my favorite album of hers because of the gesture being Rarities, and my actual favorite album of hers being Daydream because of the concept, followed by My Sweetheart, Emotions, and Butterfly. Yes, that was it for ranking and reviewing Mariah Carey. I just wanted to say that music-wise, discovering Mariah Carey was definitely one of the best experiences I had in this channel. It's right alongside discovering Kylie Minogue, which is another artist that sort of merged into my taste and my perception of music. Mariah Carey definitely did that. It expanded my horizons for a style of music that I said I liked but wasn't as familiar with as I am right now, which is R&B. I feel like my life has gotten better from discovering albums like Emancipation, Butterfly, Emotions, and Daydream, and songs like Cry Baby, Didn't Mean to Turn You On, Fly Like a Bird, Forever, Melt Away, you know, tracks that really have followed me since I started this discography journey. Not to mention the fact the channel has grown immensely because of Mariah Carey. I've gained, I believe, well over 200 subscribers just based on Mariah Carey videos alone, and the fact my reaction to Emancipation of Mimi sits at #1 as the most watched. Let's stick with watched, shall we? The most watched video in this channel is a huge example of that. That was it. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. If you've got any other requests, any artists that I should do a discography journey to, do let me know. I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.